Welcome to the NintenFusion podcast, a podcast that fuses past, present, and future Nintendo thought. I'm David, accompanied by my friend Jordan. And Jordan, I totally forgot to look up a joke before we started recording, so this is just going to be our cold opener and say, how are you today?
Doing fine, starting off this new year, hoping for some really good year, which I will say, last time we did this in 2022, we were expecting the moon.
We were like, 2022 is going to be the new 2017. I think we said that.
Yeah. And so far, what we know of 2023 is it's going to be picking up the scraps of 2022.
I mean, you're not wrong.
So I guess I'll just start off real quick. Nintendo hasn't really given us much to go off of for this year. We only know about pretty much the first half of the year. We have a scattering of games, like roughly one a month until E3 time. And then the only thing after that is Pikmin.
Yeah, it's a little interesting that they're doing that to us. I mean, I feel like in years past, we've had a much better roadmap about what Nintendo's going to do, at least more towards the early end of the Switch's life. Though I guess since we were expecting so much last year, maybe we just overthought that Nintendo gave us so much about what was coming last year.
Well, to be fair, two of the games that are coming this year that we thought were coming last year, Zelda, which Nintendo themselves thought was coming last year.
Yeah.
And then Silk Song, which has been announced for this year, but
we still don't have any other information about it.
According to their E3, last time they talked to us at E3, it should be out before E3 this year. We don't have a release date, and it could just get shadow dropped. I don't know, but it also could just get delayed indefinitely until they're ready.
Right. I mean, we love Team Cherry, and we've mentioned this multiple times. They like to take their time. They will keep going until they run out of money, and they have a lot of money this time. But eventually they have to release the game because I think too many people like us are excited for it. And they've been teasing it for several years now. So
I wonder if, was 2019 a bit too early to announce Silk Song? I feel like they had to do it because they are initially with the Kickstarter, we were supposed to get an additional campaign. And that's what this turned into. So I think they had to announce it at the time, just to say, hey, we're moving this into its own game. And I think what we were shown was what they had planned of it, like as a campaign for Hollow Knight.
True.
And so
I
they've
could see that.
Just been developing more for it. So their hands were kind of tied. They had to like make an announcement, but ideally that probably wasn't the best way to go about it. Well, then they just had like a playable demo for it that E3.
Right.
And it's been almost 4 years now. If it comes out this E3, it'll be the fourth. This February is the 4th anniversary.
Oh, dang. It's been 4 years.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Of the announcement.
Well, hopefully we'll get it very soon and they'll let us know. You know what would be a prime time for it, Jordan? The rumored January Nintendo Direct.
All right. So we need a Direct sometime early this year. Because like I said, Nintendo's entire lineup is just games coming out before E3, which means those are typically the games that this Direct will be shown at. I don't think this Direct will show us anything beyond E3. Maybe we'll get a few scattering of games for June, right?
Yeah.
But anything that comes out after June, we won't see unless it's Pikmin. I personally don't think it'll be January, at least not a general Direct.
Yeah.
I think that. So like the main like dates to keep in mind are January, I believe January 20th is Fire Emblem, February 24th is Octopath Traveler 2, and May 17th is Bayonetta. So we're getting a game every single month at the first start of this year. And it would be ideal to get a Direct at least before as many of those games as possible, right? So that we can have more information. Because most of these games we don't really know much about.
I know that Bayonetta looks absolutely gorgeous. Like it's one of the coolest art styles. And it is such a pivot for regular Bayonetta. I think it'll be very exciting. Octopath Traveler 2, like, yeah, we already know that Octopath Traveler was very good. very solid game design. I think we've gotten a decent amount of information, but I'm sure they're going to show us like how it's potentially different as a sequel if they've added anything new beyond just extending.
I think
the
we
story.
already know everything that's different about it as a sequel. It's going to be pretty similar to the previous game, but it'll be new setting and new characters and new story. It's going to be the same mechanics though, pretty much.
Right.
So if you like the mechanics of the first game, get ready for the same thing again this game.
Right. So we definitely need a direct before Bayonetta. And since we're pretty sure, I mean, given the timing that like today, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was given a rating in some European country, I imagine that Nintendo is really sticking to their guns and are pushing Zelda for probably around April is my guess for that release date. So we'll definitely need something before then. But this rumored January Direct is not going to be a general Direct. They don't need a general Direct with Zelda right around the corner. It's probably just going to be a Fire Emblem.
Zelda's May, not April.
Oh, is it May?
Yeah, they confirmed it to be May 12th.
Oh, that's right. I had forgotten that they gave us that.
So yeah, we have some time before Zelda. So the main thing is, of those 3 early games, I think Fire Emblem is the only one capable of holding its own direct. Octopath Traveler 2 and Bayonetta need to be a part of a general direct to bring in a larger audience.
Right.
So because of that, I think the January Direct will be just Fire Emblem. We already have like virtually no information for Fire Emblem, so there's plenty to go off of for a full Direct 1 or 2 weeks before its release. And then I think ideally the first Nintendo General Direct would be early February, potentially mid-February, just so they don't steal some of the Cell Thunder for Fire Emblem. But you have to get it out before Octopath Traveler 2. Right.
Unless Square Enix decides to release their own set of trailers for some reason, instead of riding off of the power of a Nintendo Direct.
Even then, though, you want it out before Bayonetta. And Bayonetta is only 2 weeks after Octopath. So
right. Especially since Nintendo's the main publisher of Bayonetta. And they showed us really pretty gameplay. But I'm sure they're going to do their Nintendo thing and explain a little bit more about some of the mechanics, some of the story plot, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see that kind of stuff. And hopefully during that early year Direct, not a January Direct, but the early year Direct, we'll get maybe something else about potential games that are coming. If not, they might show us a little bit more of like Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. You know, we know that is coming this year. Perhaps they've added some new features to that game beyond what they've already shown us.
I don't think so.
And then, of course, we have Pikmin 4 that's eventually coming this year, though kind of like you alluded to early, I really don't think that we're going to see much of that until E3. I have a feeling that's going to be late year.
I'm expecting that to be September-ish. Unless if they just straight up don't have anything else for the holidays, then that's the holiday game. Because we don't know what their holiday game is this year. The other thing to keep in mind is February 27th is Pokemon Day. So that week there will be no Direct. And since that's the week after Octopath Traveler 2, that also makes me believe that we're not getting it the first week of March. I don't think I think it's going to be mid-February is when we're expecting this Direct. You get, because it just like slots in, you get enough spacing between a potential Fire Emblem Direct, and you can get it out before the 2 big early games being Octopath and Bayonetta.
I agree with that.
And then you're not stepping on Pokemon's toes.
Right, because Pokemon has to do their own thing. They cannot possibly exist within the same space as anything else Nintendo. I mean, Pokemon Day is pretty big for them. And I'm sure Pokemon Day is when we'll see Scarlet and Violet DLC announcements. Yeah. And probably a better look at the next series of the trading card game, because they've only basically announced the Scarlet and Violet TCG set. So I imagine that we'll get more of that too.
If we get anything with the trading card game, I think it will be in Twitter posts.
Oh, true. They
don't
tend
ever
to do
really
that, don't they?
So like Pokemon Days in the past have mostly just been video game announcements as well as like big event stuff.
Yeah.
The Pokemon trading card company also tends to do things on its own from the Pokemon company. So
which is so weird.
There's a lot of internal politics with Pokemon. A lot of factions.
I also just wanted to ask Jordan, like, do you think that the Pokemon Day Direct will finally bring back from the dead Pokemon Sleep?
No. I think that game's gone. It's been so long.
I think it's been 4 years. Like, didn't they announce it in like 2019?
Like, what are you going to tell me? What was the finger reader thing that Iwata talked about at E3 like 20
oh
or
yeah,
15
the health
years ago?
sensor.
Yeah. They'll bring that back.
That'll be an add-on for Pokemon Sleep.
That's how it'll track you while you're sleeping.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see what they end up giving us. It's going to be interesting. Maybe during Pokemon Day, Game Freak will announce some sort of new project that's like another spin-off, and we'll be like, well, then why didn't you spend all of your time on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? And that'll send the whole internet in an uproar.
At the very least, give me another Mystery Dungeon. Or just give me Mystery Dungeon 2 Remake. That was the one everyone wanted to begin with.
That'd be super cool. Or potentially, work out some sort of deal with Genius Sorority, or however you say that second name. I can't remember it. But the creators of the Coliseum and XD games.
Yeah. And we're also still waiting for the ending or the second part of Detective Pikachu, right?
Right. Which completely disappeared at the same time as Pokemon Sleep. Like, they were announced the same day, I think, on a Twitter thread. And then they've both just never resurfaced. And Detective Pikachu like ended on a cliffhanger on the 3DS, as if I recall correctly. I didn't play it, but that's what I remember. So
yeah, I saw the movie.
Yeah, the movie was good. Nintendo has some really great titles this year, for sure. Like, I'm actually getting excited for Fire Emblem Engage. I picked up 3 Houses again finally the other day, and have been slowly enjoying it again. I've mentioned before on this podcast that I tried playing it the first month it came out, and I got so overwhelmed by grinding fishing for no good reason and trying to figure out the most optimal way of setting up all of my students that I got burned out from the game. So I'm trying to force myself to not do that and just enjoy it for the story, because it is too close to Fire Emblem Engage for me to like want to try to min-max everything. But I think Engage looks interesting. I want to see more of it. I still think that the main character's hair design is ridiculous, but yeah, whatever. It's where Fire Emblem has been going for the past few years.
Oh man,
I have a feeling this was somewhat inevitable.
Then they gave that same hairdo to Penny in Pokemon, so I guess that's just like the new trend in Nintendo games.
I guess so. Some character in Tears of the Kingdom is going to have that hair. Just you watch.
Just red and blue Colgate hair.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, of course, we could probably talk for hours about Tears of the Kingdom. We already kind of have.
Well, we will soon. we'll talk more about Tears of the Kingdom coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like Fire Emblem, I'm not, I don't know. I'm still at the point where I think I'm just going to skip this one.
All right. Well, I guess I'll have to play it.
Yeah. It's just every time I look at the trailers, it feels too fan servicey to me for the parts of Fire Emblem that don't jive with me to begin with.
Right. You've never liked the slice of life type stuff, like doing all of the school work and chores. You just want to be able to be out on the battlefield and engage in the story that way. Yeah.
I'm not saying I think Fire Emblem Engage is going to be bad. I just think that it's doubling down on the aspects that don't like appeal to me personally.
Yeah. Which is odd. I don't know. I guess it's what brought them success. The really great waifus from Fire Emblem Awakening and what was the other one that came out? It was the Conquest Revelations and whatever. Fates, that's the one. That got them out of the gutter when it came to their standing with Nintendo. The GameCube and Wii games were awesome and really well made, but it just did not pull in the numbers that they wanted. And now I guess they're just pushing farther and farther into that territory of, looks like all of the Fire Emblem fans love anime. Which, it's fine. Like, if that's how they find success, that's where they're going to go. But it kind of alienates you in a lot of ways.
And on top of that, they said that if Awakening wasn't successful, then the series would have ended there. So if this is what allowed them to be successful, then I can just assume that like the series died with Awakening. It would have been the same way for me either way, right?
Yeah, true that. Though you did get some good games on the 3DS after Awakening with Fates and Echoes.
Yeah, Conquest was good, and then I liked Echoes. Echoes seems to be a very controversial one, though. Among my friends, I am the only well, I am definitely the minority on liking that one.
I love it too. I honestly really like it.
Yeah, it was popular here with us, but whenever I go talk to like my other friends, like they're like, "What? Why would you like that one?"
Because really it was cool.
They really just don't like the map design in it. Which, to be fair, the maps are really old and didn't age too well. But
well, they had to remake the maps from the really old. What was it? It was on the NES, right?
I think so. I don't remember.
So really old school Fire Emblem that they wanted to keep a lot of the original spirit of. And I get that the overworld map is a little weird for people to get used to, but I found the story really engaging and the maps were pretty fun. I think that they were small enough too and challenging that each mission felt like its own little bite-sized adventure.
Yeah.
I think. So
yeah, and I just enjoyed the fact that I finally had a Fire Emblem game where I could go in and out of battles. Like,
yeah.
I didn't have to do all the micromanaging stuff of managing all like the social aspects.
Right, which they started doing in Awakening with like the child units or the children characters. Yeah. And then they kind of doubled down even more in Fates with the like, it was weird. But anyway, I am looking forward to Fire Emblem. Like I said, I'm sorry that you're not. But again, the series basically died for you anyway on the 3DS. So
yeah, and it's fine. It gets other people to play Nintendo games and then they cross over to other franchises and boost those numbers. So like,
right.
It's whatever.
Like Metroid.
Yeah. Yeah. A bunch of friends that got into Fire Emblem also played Dread. So that was nice because God knows Dread needs, Metroid needs all the help it can get.
Oh, I know. One of the coolest series Nintendo has ever made. And yet not a ton of people play the games.
Yeah.
Well, they did now with Dread, I guess.
So on the topic of Metroid while we're here.
Yeah, sure.
We also predicted last year that we would see Metroid Prime 4 news.
Well, we were pretty, firm on that stance. We made like a whole episode about what we wanted out of the game too. And like, oh, remember Retro updated their Twitter banner and it was like, whoa, it's coming out this year. And
I don't think we were saying that was coming out that year, but we did say like, we'll get our first
that's right.
information. So we were saying like a 15-second cinematic trailer.
Even just showing off Samus's new model or something like that.
Which
like
I'm still surprised we haven't gotten that much. Like that's all you need to give us for now. But
yeah, didn't they restart development in like 2018?
2019.
Was it 19?
They announced it the month before Silk Song got announced. So it's also been in development as long as Silk Song. With the new restarted development. It's been at Retro for 4 years now.
And we never hear anything from Retro while they're working on things. Like Donkey Kong just kind of happened, remember?
Yeah, whatever game Retro was planning to release between Tropical Freeze and now, I'm pretty sure it's canceled at this point. Like it's over.
All hands on deck for Metroid. Yeah, I feel kind of bad, but at the same time, I want my Metroid Prime 4, and I think they'll do a good job.
Yeah.
And considering that Nintendo already canceled or rebooted development on it, I still think that it's going to do really well. And Nintendo actually cares about Metroid for some reason now.
Yeah. And I obviously want to play it and see it as soon as I can, but I'm not too butthurt that it is taking a while because I'm imagining that with this, how many resources they're putting into the game and how expensive it's going to be. And it's likely going to sell about 3 million. I expect them to want to like double dip the investment cost into this game for future games. So we'll probably get 3 or at least 2 prime games out of it. Right.
Yeah. Maybe they will drop the 4 and
that's what I'm hoping.
Just call it Metroid Prime, but it's like Metroid Prime : new name instead of just Metroid Prime 4.
I don't think it needs the Prime moniker. Like, I think you can drop that. They'll probably keep it, like you said, just because of the name recognition for it. But definitely drop the 4, especially if it's going to be a new like story arc or whatever. There's no reason for the 4. You're just going to make potential new fans think that they need to play the other 3 first. They do not. Just make it just a standalone game that potentially can start a new trilogy.
Right. One of the reasons why I think they won't drop Prime or maybe change it out for something new is because when they announced Metroid Dread, they literally put on the screen Metroid 5. Like, they knew that it was going to be the fifth game.
Well,
and I don't think right. But like, they were clarifying that it is the fifth game in the series of Metroid games. And we know from a timeline standpoint that Prime actually happens earlier. And I don't think they want to just say this is Metroid 6, you know?
Right.
Because these take place probably at a different time. I mean, if they take place right after Prime 3, then it's definitely before Metroid 2, Return of Samus, and the rest of the games.
Well, so since we're starting like potentially a new trilogy, they could put this anywhere in the timeline.
True.
It doesn't.
I mean,
it doesn't even have to come after Metroid Prime 3. It could be earlier.
Right. Though if it is, who was it? Silex?
Oh, right. Yeah, they do need to kind of resolve that, don't they? Otherwise, fans will be a bit upset. So all we know is it has to come out after Prime 3.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be right after. But
it doesn't have to be immediately after. It could be like after Dread even. But I don't think it'll be after Dread. I don't think Retro had much story communication with the Dread team.
I doubt it.
So I would imagine that Sakamoto would have said, hey, just don't do anything after this point. Like, I am managing that. And Tanabe would be like, all right, I will just focus on a different area of the timeline. We got plenty to work with.
I mean, they have a whole galaxy to work with. So I hope they do some cool stuff. But yeah, I mean, that there are unresolved points in Metroid Prime, because when you get 100% in Prime 3, there is a nice little cutscene at the end, not very long, but one of the other hunter ships takes off and Samus goes and chases it, right? Isn't that what happens?
Yeah. And then we got the Twitter post of Samus in a ship bay, potentially revealing that maybe she is going to be coming head to head with the mysterious ship, which most likely was Silex's. To be fair, we don't even know if that was Silex's ship.
Right. But that's been the fan theory since the game literally came out.
And since Silex also was at the end of Prime Federation Force, I think Tanabe really likes Silex and he's going to bring him back.
Yeah, I can see that. But anyway, I don't think we'll get Prime 4 this year. But I really do hope that we get to see it at E3. I'm learning to not like just say, yes, we're absolutely going to see it, because we felt that way last year and it just didn't happen. So
I'm starting to believe that it's going to be one of those games that's revealed at an E3 as like their big showstopper. And then it will be announced for that following holiday season, just like Dread did.
Yeah, I could see that. Considering the success of Dread, and they did just that, they might think that surprise Metroid drops are the better way to handle shorter
marketing runs. It's definitely cheaper for a marketing push as well, especially since like we have to be like honest with ourselves. Metroid isn't a 5 million copy seller.
No, it should be, but it's not.
So
it's a hard series to get into.
Having a shorter marketing push also means you can be a lot like faster. Oh, you can push a lot harder on the marketing, right? Because you have a shorter sprint to go for. You can treat it like a sprint rather than marathon. And I think that just works better with Metroid, because the audience that's going to go for Metroid are going to be the more enfranchised players to begin with, the more enfranchised Nintendo fans. So,
yep. And I mean, considering how well Dread did, I imagine there are a lot more people interested in the Metroid series now. So
yeah.
It kind of just snowballs in a way. You got all of the people that started buying it because they were Nintendo fans, and now other people have played Metroid and they're like, oh, dang, this is a really interesting series with a cool vibe. And now with Prime 4, you know, those same people that like Dread that had never liked Metroid before are more likely to get it. And yeah, I also think that the 3D kind of bigger titles tend to be more appealing to the general audience, though maybe Metroid's too scary.
So it depends on the franchise. We know with Mario, that's typically not the case. 2D Mario tends to sell better than 3D Mario.
That's true.
With Metroid, the franchise has been all over the place because Nintendo has never given Metroid a fair marketing run. Aside from Dread. Dread was like the first time we had a fair chance, and we proved Nintendo, hey, we do actually want these games. So I'm really glad that Dread was successful. It was just shy of the 3 million mark. Which the 3 million mark was just an arbitrary number that fans made as a goal. It's not like Nintendo proper said that that's what they needed. In fact, I expect Nintendo was expecting far less because Samus Returns sold, what was it, like 700,000 copies, and they greenlit a sequel to that, basically.
Yeah, which is really surprising. That's also a very good game. If you have a 3DS, try to go get it before the end of March. You can download it from the eShop, but the eShop closes on March 27th.
So I think that Metroid Dread was expected to be a 1 million copy seller, and it sold 3 million copies. So I'm hoping that they got a hold of Mercury Steam after that and said, "Hey, let's keep this ball rolling. Don't transition to something else."
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see it this year. I'm not expecting a release this year, but it could surprise us, like you said.
It's possible we'll get a Prime remaster. That has been at the tip of rumor mills nonstop since Metroid Prime 4 was announced.
Yeah, like literally the last 5 years.
So it's really hard to even talk about it because it could exist. It might not exist. I don't know. There's nothing to go off of. Nintendo has not alluded to it even existing. And all we have are the rumors, which we had a lot of really prominent members in the rumor community, such as Jeff Grubb. They were so certain it was coming out last year that Jeff Grubb said he would shave his head if it didn't come out last year. And he now has a shaved head. So
yeah, it's bizarre. And considering some of the, what I would say are more empty slots last year, it felt like it could have slotted in easily. But considering we don't have very many confirmed releases this year, maybe Nintendo is thinking about doing it this year. Who knows?
And we also have rumors from Nate Drake saying that we're getting something F-Zero this year. And then other rumors saying that basically ports or remakes are going to fill in the hole of the Wii U ports because they're out of Wii U ports. Unless we want to report Star Fox Zero, I'll be the only person who buys it. But
I mean, there are some interesting rumors for sure this year, right? I mean, like you said, F-Zero, right? Could you imagine if Nintendo just out of the blue revived that series? I mean, in some ways, I think some fans have just kind of given up on F-Zero and have given into Mario Kart absorbed F-Zero's presence for Nintendo. Yeah. They even brought Big Blue and the other track to Mario Kart years ago. And they're pretty good tracks for Mario Kart.
Yeah.
But no sign of Captain Falcon.
Miyamoto basically being on record saying that the reason why we're not getting more F-Zero is because they don't have a new gimmick to give it or anything. And they view F-Zero as a series that shows off the graphical capabilities of a console, and there hasn't been a reason for that since the GameCube because graphical capabilities was not ever a selling point since the GameCube.
Right. And the GameCube game for F-Zero came out pretty early, didn't it?
Yeah, because it was basically a tech demo. That and Luigi's Mansion. So
right. So maybe we'll get F-Zero for the Switch 2.
Well, I could see them doing a remake. I could also see there was I believe it was early on in the Switch development. It might have been on the Wii U. There was an indie game that was very similar to F-Zero. And I could see Nintendo going to them and saying, "Hey, do you want to help us with an F-Zero game? If we supply the art, can you supply the gameplay?" But,
yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
And then we get something new.
You also have to remember that it's almost been 20 years since the last Fire Emblem game.
Well, I think honestly, Smash Bros. Alone has kept interest alive for F-Zero.
All on its own. And I guess virtual console stuff too.
All they have to do is show that Captain Falcon is in this game and it'll do fine. It will sell at least 1 million copies.
I mean, I'd get it just to be yes, please keep making these.
Yeah, it won't be a big seller. We have to be real, of course.
No.
But I could see 1 million.
If Mario makes a futuristic cameo or something, maybe it'll do really well.
But the most likely outcome is just a remake, if anything. We also have rumors that Namco is doing some sort of 3D action game remake for the Switch. Since Namco is buddy up with Sakurai, a lot of people are expecting that to be Kid Icarus.
Right. Though it's kind of weird to think about what Sakurai's been working on because he's basically a YouTuber now.
I'm pretty sure he outsources most of the work to that.
Oh, he actually like made a video like a couple of weeks ago about his process. And yeah, he writes the scripts and films himself by himself. But then all of the graphics and artwork and editing are done out of house. So it's not like he's a standard YouTuber.
I'm pretty sure a lot of the graphics, when like they're showing like generic people or whatever, if I understand it right, those are basically royalty-free clip arts that the Japanese government has provided for Japanese YouTubers.
Something like that.
Because I've seen them in other Japanese-based YouTube videos as well.
Yeah, and he's making them with his company Sora. So he's definitely like, still working with his company. It's not like he's retired or anything. Yeah. But I could also see him wanting to take a nice long break from video game development because Ultimate was a lot for him.
Yeah, and maybe so in the Mario trailer for the Mario movie, they alluded to the fact that there's a lot of galaxies out there. Which definitely leads to the idea that they're setting up for a Smash Bros. Movie. It's possible Sakurai would be pulled in as an advisory role for that, similar to how Miyamoto is for the Mario movie.
But like, I just totally different aside. It's kind of weird to think about a Smash Brothers movie simply because the Smash Brothers lore has always been all of the characters are either toys or statues.
Yeah, and I don't think they could do that this year.
No, they're not doing that.
They're very clearly stating in this movie that Mario is from Brooklyn.
Right.
And warped over to the Mario Galaxy. Well, it wouldn't be the Mario Galaxy because he's not there.
The Mushroom Kingdom Galaxy.
Well, it's not the Mushroom Kingdom Galaxy either because like we see the map of the world, the kingdoms aren't different galaxies. So when she's saying there's a lot of galaxies out there, she's clearly stating Mario's galaxy and then any other potential Nintendo galaxies, which also means Lil Mac was in Brooklyn. I wonder if we'll see Lil Mac actually in this Mario movie.
I don't know. A lot of fans sure like to pair Rosalina and Little Mac for some reason.
Yeah, but like Mario was the referee to the Punch-Out game. So
yeah, very true.
And Donkey Kong's fought Lil Mac as well. So
yeah,
I guess technically Lil Mac should be from New Donk City then, huh? Not Brooklyn.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll retcon that.
So are we going back to New Donk City? Man, this movie's already ruined Mario lore because.
Not that there was a lot to work with before.
How is Donkey Kong supposed to get to New Donk City and kidnap Palutena?
I don't know.
Or not Palutena. What's her name?
Paulina.
Okay. Yeah, I had Kate Icarus on mine still.
Yeah. I mean, but we also know that New Donk City, if you were to look at the map from Mario Odyssey, is on the same planet.
Yeah.
So
the movie doesn't work with that. All right. The movie's already non-canon. I don't need to watch it.
Or they're completely rebooting the Mario franchise, starting with the movie. I mean, there are some people that believe that we're going to be getting a new Mario game in the style of the movie. I don't really want that, but it's possible. If anything, the new design for Donkey Kong looks really good, I think, and it could work for a new game. But again, these are movie models. I don't think they'll translate into video game models.
Ooh, I wonder. So the Mario movie is coming out, late March?
April 7th.
Okay. So I'm wondering if that's technically the April game slot.
It's just the movie.
Is the movie, yeah. Because I can see Nintendo not wanting to release a game to compete against ticket sales.
That's totally possible.
And then May is already Zelda. So we might actually have all of our core pillar games or pillar releases, because the movie's not a game, for the first half of the year. We're just missing June. And then from there, E3 will kick us off for the second half of the year. So I do think, so circling all the way back to the Direct, February Direct, I don't think there'll be anything substantial in that Direct. I think it'll just be information to games we already know, as well as the Mario movie, and maybe one or two surprises, potentially for a June game, which don't be too excited. The June release typically isn't that great. It's usually like a sports game or a Warriors game, or both, as in the case of last year.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, yeah. We got to add that to the list. I'm betting that we're getting a Warriors game this year.
Oh, right.
It'll be Warriors something. We get one every year.
Well, we already have a Three Houses Warriors. We already have 2 Zelda Warriors.
Yeah.
Kid Icarus Warriors.
I guess technically, what year did Calamity come out? Was that 2021 or 2020?
Calamity came out in 2020.
Ooh.
But they had DLC.
Okay, so this year will be DLC for the Fire Emblem one. Okay, so next year is Warriors. All right, great. Because there's a rule that every Direct has to have a Warriors game in it. Now I know what's going to happen for that one. Okay, great.
Well, all right. I can't believe Age of Calamity was 2020.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess they're every other year.
That's so bizarre. Like, yeah. I literally cannot place that. I mean, that was kind of pandemic years, but
pandemic
still,
brain,
2020.
Yeah. It's all just 1 year. The last 2 years just feels like 1 year.
The last 3 years, you mean?
Oh, no. It's getting worse.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, you mentioned Kid Icarus. I want a Kid Icarus game. We've talked about that before. That might be rumored, but who knows if it's going to happen. It deserves it. I think it should get the Metroid Dread treatment because the 3DS game is one of the best games Nintendo's ever released.
The biggest problem with Kid Icarus is that you need to make sure you're up to date on your health insurance before you play it. If they can get past that, then it's a banger title.
Jordan means like your hands will be messed up, right?
Yeah.
You might need to go in for like tendon surgery or something. It was not comfortable to play that game, especially on like the 3DS XLs that were much heavier. But it's still a fantastic game. Controls really well. And
I just love that game forced Nintendo's hand to make an attachment to the 3DS for a second slider, and the game doesn't even have dual slider support. Like, what is?
Yeah.
Oh man, I had a friend though that did get the second slider specifically for that game because he is left-handed. So it was a good thing to release anyway. But still,
yeah. Well, and then like one of the only games after that really used that second slider / joy control multi-directional thing was like Majora's Mask. And I guess Monster Hunter used it too. But like, yeah, Majora's Mask only used it for camera movement.
Although one of those I'm pretty sure was a new 3DS XL exclusive, if I remember right. So it didn't work that attachment, unless if maybe it did attach, but you only would use it if like you didn't want to use the tiny nub that they added to that console. I'm pretty sure. I think both of them were specifically made for the new 3DS. Man, it's crazy to think that the new 3DS haven't existed like that. There were like no games that were exclusive of that.
Majora's Mask wasn't exclusive to the new 3DS.
Was it Monster Hunter? Okay, it was neither. It was just Xenoblade and a whole bunch of games I've never heard of. Minecraft, Fire Emblem Warriors, Binding of Isaac, and a whole bunch of games that might also exist. Okay, cool. So going back to 2023 instead of the ancient years.
The dark times.
The dark times.
Even though the
dark
3DS
ages. The 3DS. I'm going to refer to the Wii U era as the dark ages from now on.
All right. Sounds good. Where the only light was the 3DS. And even then, when we got towards the end there, it was pretty hairy. I guess the next thing to really talk about here, we kind of alluded to it in episodes past, especially when it came to talking about Metroid, right? Was new hardware for Nintendo. Yeah. And there have been some interesting developments in the last couple of weeks regarding hardware, I think. There's kind of this rumor that has been going around. I think it was Digital Foundry that started it, saying that Nintendo did have plans to release the Switch Pro sometime, who knows when, but that it was eventually canceled.
Yes, they said that some developers had told them that they were working on software for a Switch Pro, likely either like extra features for the Switch Pro or exclusive for the Switch Pro. And Nintendo ended up canceling it because of the pandemic, likely because of supply issues. Chips were expensive, right?
Yeah.
And it's possible that the OLED was basically the remains of
the remains
the remains of what came out of the Switch Pro, because it was the OLED Switch was basically all the same internals but with an updated screen. So I imagine that they initially planned for updated internals as well, but they just couldn't get a reliable source for them.
That's what we all thought too. And as far as I understand it, there are still references in the Switch OS to another piece of hardware that never came out. That was not Mariko, I believe is what they call the revised version of the Switch that came out after Nintendo realized that every single first generation Switch was hackable and they couldn't ever patch that.
Yeah. Even then, even if like they could have at least given the OLED more RAM, right? I don't Silicon was expensive, but RAM was not. Like, come on, Nintendo, come on.
But at that point, they have to play the game of the new 3DS or like the even the N64. Like, you give more RAM, like you get a little performance boost, but then you get all these people that are like, okay, should I get the new one so that I have the better performance? And then does Nintendo have to allow developers to take advantage of the extra RAM so that, our games actually do run better on this slightly better Switch that just has more RAM or whatever? Like, I can see Nintendo kind of scratching their heads around that whole thing and then just deciding, you know what, to keep things consistent, we're not even going to add more RAM.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure the OLED runs worse than the normal Switch because at least when it's in handheld mode, because it has the bigger screen to work with, the OLED screen to work with. And so the RAM's a bit of an issue where load screens are, the differences are minuscule. You won't notice them, but like some of the more the more core gamers have been noticing a bit of a performance dip.
Yeah,
a very slight performance dip.
Performance is like identical, if not slightly better when docked for an odd reason, from what I understand.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just, it's weird. It's like, even though most of the internals are identical, especially the chip, the new battery, they might have improved the power delivery system. I don't know. I'm making wild guesses. I'm not really a hardware person.
At the very least, they should have put more storage on the device than they did.
But, Jordan, this just kind of leads into, I guess, the president of Nintendo was telling the truth last year, right? There will be no new hardware this year.
Yeah, they said no new hardware this fiscal year, which coincidentally ends this March. So
it is
possible after March that we get new hardware. Do you think we'll get new hardware with Zelda? That is one theory that a lot of fans have had up until very recently.
Well, yeah, up until very recently. I mean, I'd love to see it, but of course we got, what was it? Some French leaker of some kind. I don't know what the whole sitch is.
Yeah. So a French, basically an OLED model of Zelda 2 got leaked that some French user has access to. And so if Nintendo, the idea is if Nintendo is planning to release a special edition OLED alongside Zelda, then there's no Switch 2 releasing alongside it.
Because they wouldn't dare jeopardize those sales. Would you rather get the Zelda themed OLED or would you rather get the Switch 2?
Yeah. Although with that said, I'm kind of leaning on the side that that's a fake leak. I don't have any definitive proof for it, but like it kind of raises alarm bells that it was made completely with known information. Like nothing new came out of this, right? Related to Zelda. It's just like promotional material images that everyone had access to begin with. And then on top of that, they're showing like their own Switch that they have modded the Joy-Cons on their own to begin with. So it's already someone who is interested in Joy-Con modding that's leaking it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, they could have easily just slotted it into the box. I don't know. I did see that like on the Joy-Cons, which there's like the symbol, right, of the like jewel with like the wings on it.
Yeah, that looks almost like a mask.
Yeah. We have seen something like that in the actual trailers and stuff, but I don't know. It's It's weird. And then also the image that they shared that showed like all of the different angles of everything. Like, is that promotional material or are those like part of the box? Like, why does he have the promotional material images like that printed out? If they are printed, I don't know. It's weird. I could see it being real. I think that they look really good. The only problem I have with it is that it doesn't really look like the back of the Switch has any sort of new design. And so, all of the special edition OLEDs do.
I did take you have to zoom in. It's really, really faint. So, you know, those like little circles on the front of the dock or whatever?
Yeah.
Those are just supposedly engraved to the back.
Right. But they've also, I don't know if you notice, if you zoom in, even the white parts of the like promotional image have all of that too. So it's like, why would they put all of those circles on the actual promotional poster looking thing as well as on the back of the image? I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. And the circles are kind of lazy. Let's be real. Like,
yeah.
If this is the Switch special, or if this is the Zelda special edition OLED, I'd be a bit disappointed.
Yeah, like, have you seen the Splatoon OLED?
Yeah. The back of the Splatoon and even the Pokemon one look way better.
They look freaking phenomenal. I love my Splatoon OLED. Like, it's so cool. I don't know. If this is a real OLED, awesome. I'm happy for Zelda to get one. And it looks all right. The white is nice, but I definitely think the Splatoon one is way better.
Yeah. And one other thing to note, it doesn't prove anything. But this would be the first OLED box where the game title is on a different line. That might just be because there's a lot more characters on it. But they did also shrink the font for Pokemon to fit it on its same line. So they probably might, if this were real, they might do that again with Zelda. But
well, the European box for Splatoon 3 doesn't even say Splatoon 3 on it. It just says Special Edition and has a squid on it.
Yeah, but the Pokemon one does say Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah. Anyway, it's an interesting thing, and it just leads back into, if that thing is real, then are we getting new hardware for Zelda? And that's where the community is very split right now. You know, there are definitely people that think, oh, they could still have a side-by-side release where the OLED comes out and we also get upgraded Switch somehow. And I don't know. It doesn't feel Nintendo-y to me to be like, all right, we're making a Switch OLED for Zelda, and we're also going to release the next Switch at the same time. Like, no. That's competing. They already had so many problems with the 3DS launches when it came to like some of the special editions and the new Nintendo 3DS and then the new Nintendo 2DS XLs and all of that stuff. Like, it just got confusing. And that's why I think Nintendo's like, we're just doing special editions. We're just releasing these Switches. We're not going to worry about new hardware. And my guess is that like the next console is going to either be named the Switch 2 or it's going to go away from the Switch branding. Because if it goes away, I don't think they want the confusion that the 3DS era had.
Yeah. If they go away from the Switch branding, it'll be because it's not backwards compatible.
Right. Which is another thing that you mentioned before we started recording. Like, it just seems so sad. Like, could you imagine if games aren't backwards compatible?
Yeah. So last November, Miyamoto said he gave a long discussion, but like the specific part taken out of context kind of his quote was at the very end. He's so like in the interview, he was basically saying that it's really nice that it's easier to make games for future consoles and so that they can be backwards compatible. And then after like praising that it's easier to do this, he ended with basically Nintendo's strength is in our creation of new entertainment. So when we release new hardware going forward, we plan to continue to offer new and unique gameplay that cannot be realized on existing hardware. That doesn't rule out the potential for backwards compatibility, but it looks like Nintendo's philosophy, or at least how Miyamoto views it, is there has to be some sort of like selling pitch from a hardware perspective for new hardware where it makes it so future games put onto that can't be backported to the previous console in some way, right?
Yeah. It's so weird. And I could see them doing that. Like, I really could. However, we mentioned moving away from the branding and whatnot. But the GameCube to the Wii was still completely backwards compatible with GameCube games, even though they changed the branding and they had a whole new hardware gimmick when it came to the Wii remote and all of that. And I think I remember them saying the Wii is like two GameCubes duct taped together in terms of performance. But I mean, I think Nintendo would be missing out on a significant opportunity, especially with their Switch eShop, to allow that backwards compatibility. But it's Nintendo. Like, they got rid of the Virtual Console and they're closing down the Nintendo 3DS eShop very soon here. Like, they don't seem to have much interest in backwards compatibility, especially when they release all of the Wii U games for $60 again on the Switch with hardly any changes, and people buy them up like crazy.
Yeah, I'm terrified that Nintendo will intentionally make it not backwards compatible just so they can resell the Switch games at $60. At least the evergreen titles, right?
Yeah. Oh, you can play Breath of the Wild on the Switch too. You just have to buy it again.
And I imagine like that strategy makes a lot of sense to executive C-class people at Nintendo, but I think that would be a huge business mistake. The reason why it worked with the Wii U was because no one bought the Wii U.
Exactly.
It's not because people like rebuying the game again or are okay with it. It was because technically, to most of the people who bought these Wii U ports, this was the first time they bought the game.
Yeah.
And that will not be the case with the next Switch or the next hardware.
No.
So I could see Nintendo basically doing the same thing that they did with the Wii U. They made a lot of assumptions with the Wii U with the idea that it would work because it worked with the Wii. And they need to not apply that logic.
Nintendo's an enigma. Sometimes you're just like, what are you doing? You think, oh, we know a good plan. But then you and I have to remember that we're not the executives sitting in the chairs making all of these decisions, nor are we technically game designers. So it's hard, being a fan and being like, oh, it would be so great if they did all of this, when we don't really have any say other than the power of our wallets to vote with our money.
Yeah. So we didn't answer the question if we think that new hardware is coming this year.
Coming this year?
Yeah.
Not before Zelda.
Not before Zelda?
My guess.
You don't think it'll be with Zelda?
If it's coming out this year, it's going to be after Zelda. I think they want to bank on existing Switch install base so that they have a really strong launch for Zelda. And if they do make a new piece of hardware, it will be backwards compatible, is my opinion. And I've been kind of saying this. I imagine that down the line, especially when DLC starts coming out, that there might be some sort of updated patch. I mean, this is me hoping and praying. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but some sort of extra patch you can get that takes advantage of some of the new consoles features. I don't know. That's my hope and my prayer. But I really don't think Nintendo's going to do new hardware before Zelda.
Yeah, I think that the best approach is the easiest approach, which is to just name the device the Switch 2. It's just another Switch with better performance enhancements. And you just put in like a little knob or whatever. Don't do the 3DS thing. The reason why the 3DS was confusing is because it wasn't called the DS2. It was the 3DS. Like,
the 3.
Just name it the Switch 2. I don't know why Nintendo hates being direct with their names. Make it the Switch 2, a more powerful Switch. It doesn't really need that much of a gimmick. You can technically, if you could get the performance high enough so that it could support VR, great. There's your elevator pitch, right?
Right. They tried that with Labo and then they discontinued Labo pretty quick.
Yeah. But I think Nintendo has a very core idea here with like the hybrid console thing, that their only real competitor so far is Steam, and the Steam Deck is great. I love the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck does not like cater to casuals at all. So like Nintendo has a huge chunk of the like market share and just basically secured, so long as they don't screw things up.
Yeah, and so long as they don't alienate indie developers and cozy game developers. Like, that seems to be a huge chunk of the audience that only really plays on the Switch. Like, I get all sorts of random TikTok videos that are like just cozy Switch gamers. They're like, check out my really cute setup. And they have like a MacBook Pro, and then the Switch is their only console in their setup. And they just play like Stardew Valley and are looking forward to Haunted Chocolatier and all of these other like cozy pixely art or indie hand-drawn-y games that don't require a lot of intense action but make them enjoy gaming. And Nintendo seems to have like a death grip on that community. Even when these games are releasing on other consoles, it feels like Switch is where those type of gamers like to hang out.
The Animal Crossing gamers.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I feel like it needs to have backwards compatibility. Otherwise, you're going to have a giant PR disaster. And if it does have backwards compatibility, then it just starts off with a huge, enormous library. And then you just need to tell people it will have exclusives going forward. And then just demonstrate the graphical capability of it.
No, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And one of the hardest parts about that is going to be phasing in like the branding for Switch 2 for the newer games to be like, this is only available on Switch 2. And it's going to be a weird limbo year, I think, if they go this route, which is the route I would prefer, where games will still release with Switch, but it will still say also compatible with Switch 2, but maybe better and more stable or something. But they're going to have to like kind of ease the market in instead of just a hard drop, I think.
With all that said, I don't see it releasing with Zelda. As I said in a previous episode, I believe that it would be weird for Zelda to be the like game that is the launch game for new hardware when it's on the previous Switch.
Yeah, that only worked with Switch and Wii U for Breath of the Wild because, again, nobody had a Wii U.
Exactly. And also the Switch wasn't the elevator pitch for the Switch wasn't its like technical proficiency, right? It wasn't like this groundbreaking new graphics. With this approach, graphics and like performance enhancements are your main elevator pitch. So you need a game to basically show that off. So it has to be something that can't be run on the Switch One in some way. And so Tears of the Kingdom will not be that game.
Right. Which just circles us right back to F-Zero. Right?
You're right. We were just talking that F-Zero is one of Nintendo's favorite games to show off graphical improvements.
Yeah. F-Zero's going to be the launch title. We're calling it.
Oh, no, man,
I don't think it'll move enough.
Well, units, so as long as it's launching with like an evergreen title to go with it.
Yeah, like Pikmin 4, even though it had the Switch branding on Pikmin the trailer.
4. You gotta do Mario. You gotta do Mario or Zelda, but Zelda's been taken up, so it's gotta be Mario or maybe Donkey Kong could even do it.
Pokemon can't because we just got the next generation. So,
Ooh.
And we know Game Freak wouldn't be able to push out.
I was just about to say Mario Kart 9, but you can't release Mario Kart 9 and F-Zero at the same time.
No, and you also can't release Mario Kart 9 until the Mario Kart 8 DLC is finished.
So there's never been a more perfect time for F-Zero.
Yeah.
We can't even release Mario Kart 9. So
well, and we know the Mario Kart team like was basically taken away from console development to work on Mario Kart Tour for the mobile devices.
What if the Mario Kart team has been on F-Zero for a while?
Ooh. I mean, that'd be sick.
I can see it.
And then they give us Mario Kart 9 that incorporates a lot of the cool things they learned for F-Zero. I don't know.
I think F-Zero would be a fantastic introductory title for the Switch 2. It won't be something that will like force all the more casual crowds to get up and immediately go to the Switch 2 because you're going to want to roll it out to the more enfranchised players first.
Yeah.
Because there's only going to be so much supply at the start, right?
Right.
But you want an evergreen title and you want to kind of target towards the enfranchised players.
So you're telling me that F-Zero is going to be the snipper clips of the Switch 2?
Sure. I think that would be a fantastic sniffer clips.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
Metroid Prime 4 could also do it.
If it looks freaking amazing.
Well, it's retro. Retro always blows it out of the park with what they have to work with.
Have you seen Donkey Kong on the Wii? And the
have
Wii
you seen
U?
Metroid Prime on the GameCube?
Oh, I was talking more recent, like, yeah, of course they blew it out of the park with Metroid on the GameCube, but I don't know. I think this year will be interesting, even if it doesn't end up being like we are fantasizing right now. We do have a lot of really great titles coming out, especially with Zelda and Pikmin 4. Of course, not forgetting Silk Song, but Silk Song is going to be released on multiple consoles and whatnot.
Silk Song is going to compete for Game of the Year against Zelda for me this year.
Yeah. Unless Prime 4 comes out this year too.
Man. If that, oh man. So looking at the potential Game of the Year awards, we also know Final Fantasy 16 is coming this year.
Dang.
As well as Armored Core and Starfield. Those are going to be the big name titles, I think, going into award season, along with Zelda and Silk Song. I think those will be the locks, basically, unless if like one of them just bombs, right? But
right. Anyway, I think 2023 is going to be an exciting year, and I guess we'll know in a couple of weeks if we get a direct to kick things off. Anyway, I am definitely most looking forward to Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Out of the confirmed things that we know are coming, been waiting for that game since Breath of the Wild. Since I finished Breath of the Wild's DLC, basically, it's just
been way too long.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I don't think anyone expected Zelda to take this long. This is going to be the longest development cycle between two Zelda games.
Yeah.
And it's running off the engine of Breath of the Wild. Ooh, I was expecting a Majora's Mask situation, not this.
We all were, Jordan. Every single Zelda fan was like, they're going to pull a Majora's Mask and give us a sequel in a year or 2 years.
Man.
And it didn't happen.
It better be banger. So the longer the development cycle goes, the more I'm disappointed that we're just returning to the same Hyrule.
Yeah, but we got all the Sky Islands.
Yeah. They better make it work.
And maybe we get to go to the past. That's still a possibility.
Yeah.
So it's
Zonai stuff.
We'll have to wait and see.
I mean, there's clearly a heavy emphasis on Zonai. I've also been hearing a lot of discussion in the Zelda community that like, Nintendo was planning for the latest 3 games to be based off of like the Triforce. So Skyward Sword was the power game because it's all about the origins of Calamity, and Breath of the Wild is wisdom because it's all focused around Zelda herself. And this one will be the courage one because it's green.
I mean, I could see a lot of that happening. Like, I wouldn't put that past Aonuma, but maybe. I don't think that Skyward Sword starts the trilogy. I think that this is
Breath
the second game in the like exploration of the 3 main focuses of the Triforce.
Sure. Yeah. Like, I don't see how Skyward Sword fits into that. That's just Zelda fans trying to find things to force their way to fit.
Yeah. I mean, you should have seen the forums back in like 2011 before Hyrule Historia came out with the timeline. Like,
I was there. I was there.
People were fighting so hard over which games fit in what timeline. People are like, no, there's a uniform timeline. No, there's only 2 splits. No, there are 4 splits. No, and it's just okay. Zelda fans have always been interested in theorizing and lore.
I remember the great timeline wars.
And as much as I love Zelda's lore, I have to admit that like a lot of it they make up as they go. Like,
well, and I think a big part of it is even Nintendo proper, like I think we use it this way. They're legends spoken by the people to other people. And so there's just going to be incorrect things in each game because like people tell stories wrong. Yeah.
I mean, I still think that Breath of the Wild could be at the end of all of the timelines in some sort of convergence fashion, since there are so many references to all parts of the timeline. But it's still like, they're just legends. Maybe Breath of the Wild is the first Legend of Zelda game that isn't actually a legend and is actually part of the story. Like an actual real thing that happened. I don't know.
It would be nice for them to cement this by having characters actually speaking about previous games in a legend fashion.
Yes.
And getting things wrong. So then like more people will understand that like these are just legends and people get facts wrong.
One of my favorite stories as a child was when the entirety of the world flooded and the queen of purple dinosaurs was the ship that sailed Link around.
Not quite that much, but like just like little side things that just did not happen. Right.
Yeah.
Like really small, minute details. But
yeah, that'd be cool. I think we will definitely talk more and more about Tears of the Kingdom as we get closer, especially when they give us more trailers and a potential direct before its release. Very soon. But I think it's safe to say that you and I are both most excited from a first-party Nintendo standpoint for Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes. Yes. Tears of the Kingdom and Silksong are my two Nintendo games.
I agree.
Dying.
Though
to
I
play.
am really excited for, well, no, I wouldn't say really excited. I say that I'm really interested in Bayonetta Origins. And then, of course, we're both big Pikmin nerds. So hopefully Pikmin 4 is really
Pikmin
good.
will be great. I'm hoping, well, we'll see. I'll hold any like concerns I have for Pikmin after we get a real trailer. I like Pikmin 3. It's not my favorite of the trilogy, though. It just felt a bit too, I don't know how to even put it. It didn't feel like as much of an adventure as the previous two games.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it as we get closer and closer. So not a lot to go off of with like 4 different scenes, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
A few other games that we didn't, you briefly mentioned Haunted Chocolatier. There's no guarantee that it's coming out this year. Concerned Date straight up says he doesn't want to commit to any timeline for the game. But that'd be pretty cool to see come this year. And then
I agree.
Another
Looks
one
awesome.
is Mina the Hollower, which is the next game by the Shovel Knight guys.
Oh yeah. I actually don't know very much about that one.
So it's a 2D Zelda. It's a spiritual successor to Zelda. It's Zelda Light. Yeah, sure. It's basically like Zelda's Awakening. It's got the same Game Boy graphics and a lot of the same gameplay loops of 2D Zelda games. So I'm very excited. Shovel Knight was phenomenal. So
they put it on Kickstarter?
I think so.
Interesting.
So we know that one is slated for 2023. We don't know if it's coming to Switch this year, but I imagine it would.
Dang, it looks so cool. It really does evoke the more like the Game Boy Zelda games.
Yeah.
At least from its art style.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Okay, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Mina the Hollower.
I will keep an eye on that one.
And then we didn't talk about Donkey Kong yet.
Oh yeah, there's a rumor about that one. Still,
oh man, there's a rumor. There's been a rumor for years now. Do you think it's possibly happening?
I mean, if it happens, it's going to be after the Mario movie.
Yeah.
I could see it happening. I really could. I think it's time for another Donkey Kong adventure, but I don't want to commit and say, yes, it's absolutely coming. Because again, we said it was absolutely coming last year and there was no sign of it.
Okay. So provided that Pikmin is not the holiday game, what is in your thoughts?
Either Donkey Kong or Mario.
Yeah. I think they're holding off Mario for the Switch 2 at this point.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But I think it has to be one of those two since Zelda is their late spring, early summer title.
Yeah.
Unless it's Metroid, but I don't think it's going to be Metroid.
Would be so happy if it's Metroid.
Is there anything else that we've missed?
I think we're good. It's just so I guess like how excited are you for this year? Is this another 2017? Are we asking for the moon again?
I don't think it's another 2017, but Zelda is going to be like what puts this year above last year for me. As much as I love Splatoon 3 and I loved and I enjoyed the 2 Pokemon games that we got, I am at heart a bigger Zelda nerd than I am for either of those. And I have wanted the sequel to Breath of the Wild ever since I finished the DLC. You know, they announced it years ago. And that alone, I think, will raise this year up to be one of the best years on the Switch for me.
Yeah. Either Zelda or Silksong alone would make this one of the best years on Switch for me. And the potential that we're getting both, I'm very excited. The question is if they're going to come out the same month, because it's a very high possibility.
I mean, I'm excited for both of them, but if they come out the same, even if they came out the same day, I would prioritize Zelda over Silksong.
Oh, yeah, it would be painful. It would be so painful.
It would be painful. Maybe I'd play a little bit of both, but I would definitely spend the first day or two just playing Zelda because this is what I wanted. That's what I've wanted to do forever. Longer than Silksong.
Yeah, I just have like this dreaded feeling since they said last June that it will come out within the next year, that they're going to push that to the absolute last minute.
Yeah, but I really don't think Team Cherry is going to want to compete with Zelda.
That's true. That's very true.
They might. I mean, they're known for just kind of throwing things out there, but I think that they're going to try to work around that particular title.
Well, and I think a lot of I expect April and June to be very dry months.
Yeah, but we'll also be playing both Zelda and Silksong, so it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited for the year. I imagine most Nintendo fans are. If you have any inkling for Zelda, inkling, sorry, that was a Splatoon like thing that just kind of popped out. But if you have any sort of love or attachment to Zelda, this year is going to be big, if only for Tears of the Kingdom. So very excited to see where that takes us. The Mario movie should be at least a fun watch, even though I still have issues with parts of it. And hopefully it means that we get a new Donkey Kong after the movie comes out, that they'll announce that. But other than that, I think 2023 is going to be a good year. It's not going to be another 2017. But I think it's going to be pretty great.
Yeah, I think it'll be one of the better years for the Switch. I think it'll be a bit better than 2022. It's the year of the Zelda. We're just completely playing a lot of Zelda, which is fine. It'll be a big game.
Totally agree. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say about 2023, other than we will definitely have to re-listen to this episode and talk about it at the end of the year and be like, man, those two were idiots, or man, those two didn't even hope enough.
I don't think we didn't ask for much this year. We only talked about things that have been confirmed, and we're like really pessimistic on the futures of a Switch 2 this year.
Yeah. And
we're like, Nintendo will just close out on Pikmin and remakes.
We're keeping it safe, you know. Maybe we'll make a game out of it with points and be like, yeah, they got everything right, but they missed a whole bunch. Who knows? We'll have to see where this year takes us. Either way, I'm excited for it. I think it'll be good. And looking forward to Nintendo's future. Yeah,
I'm definitely looking forward to it. Hopefully, we'll hear about a Switch 2 sometime this year. That's what I'm really hoping for. It'll be the best year if we get our 15-second cinematic trailer for Metroid Prime 4. That's all I need.
On top of the other things that are going to make this year great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else we need to talk about here, Jordan?
I think I'm good.
All right. Well, that is our outlook on the year 2023 for the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo in general. Hope you've enjoyed listening to us talk about that. And yeah, you'll have to let us know how terribly we did, or what your own opinions are in the upcoming weeks and months. If you want to chat about this type of stuff with us, head to our Discord server at nintenfusion.com/discord. That'll bring you right here. And then please be sure to leave a comment or a like or a review about the podcast so other people can find it on whatever service you're listening to us on. But with all that said, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
See ya.